This week, we are taking the Compass Literature Corner on the road to Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota. As usual, we will be talking to local authors and writers who have had an impact on this region, or whom this region has had an impact on. This week, we have a man who has lived a life among giants, but always seems to find the humanity among them. While he's not a Minnesota native, he is responsible for making Bird Island famous with his peekaboo style of meteorology and has called Minnesota home for 38 of his 79 years. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to be introducing Barry Zavan, the Weatherman. Barry, welcome.
Oh, thanks for that wonderful introduction.
Barry, why don't you tell us a little bit about your book, Barry Zavan, My Life Among the Giants, a memoir.
Well, it's really kind of a history of the broadcasting business and a lot of the history of show business. A lot of people were unaware, and one of the reasons I wrote it is Jerry Stiller urged me to write the book. Jerry is Ben Stiller's father, as he's more known today.
And a very close friend of yours.
Yes, since the 1950s, Jerry and I have been dear friends, and so he said he had such an incredible life that it's so multidimensional, people have to know. He said, I want you to be more recognized. And so he said, write your book. And he kept urging me. And at the top of the book, it says, thank you, Jerry Stiller, for urging me to write this book, as you see on the front cover.
Yeah, and the photo, there's even a photo of you and him on the front cover, too.
Yeah, and several others as well.
Oh, yes. Well, and this book, you know, you mentioned that you were blessed to be invited into these people's lives. You know, there's minor celebrities and major celebrities, and many pictures along the way as you're reading. So how did you pick who fit into your memoir or who to highlight? You know, you have so many people in your book, and I'm sure, you know, you included everybody in some way, shape, or form, but how did you pick who to just mention and who to tell stories about?
Well, the mentions are, you know, the ones with whom I had lesser a time of a relationship, but the ones who I expand upon are definitely ones who I had even deeper relationships for, not just meeting them, and it had nothing to do with interviews or anything else. I mean, we were in the business together.
Well, and a lot of it was opportunity.
Well, it's being the right place at the right time, and it's connections. Because this is a very incestuous business. You start to know people, and they say, well, I know this one and that one, and they say, well, I knew him too because I acted with him, and this and that and the other. And I just started out as an actor, and I wanted to be an actor, but the story in the book about why I became a meteorologist instead and used any talent that I may have had in regard to communicating with people to transfer it to doing it on the weather and having some fun with it. And of course, when there were bad weather days, I didn't have any fun with it.
Well, in this book, you know, it follows your career from actor to weatherman and then some, you know. So as I was reading it, it struck me as a warning of, you know, what choices can impact your career.
Oh, yes. I turned down a lifetime job at KSTP in Minneapolis, St. Paul, not realizing when you're in your 30s how important that offer was from Mr. Hubbard. And I've regretted it every day since. I bid for the money in Washington, D.C., and found out later that one of the stations here in the Twin Cities just wanted me out of town because we were killing them in the ratings.
You were so popular.
And so as I say, I've regretted it ever since.
So what kind of warning would you, or advice would you give journalists like myself who are up and coming and wanting to break into the broadcast field?
Well, if you're already in the field, the best advice I ever got was from a former KSTP TV news director who wound up in Washington, D.C. herself with her husband, Jack, who was bureau chief for the LA Times. And she told me, she said, Barry, whenever you're happy somewhere, stay there.
That's great
Period.
advice.
Whenever you're happy somewhere, stay there. Because you don't realize the safety net that might not be there in the future. And if you can find something that you're happy doing, and they're going to continue to have you do it,
do it as long as you can.
Yep. Yeah.
So now, when writing a memoir, it's a huge undertaking. Tell us a little bit about that. You know, what kind of surprises did you come across? What kind of struggles when writing a memoir?
There were no surprises for me and no struggles because I have what they call an eidetic memory. Ooh. I remember what I had for lunch in February the 10th of 1948, and it drives me crazy, actually. But everything had such an impact and was so embedded in my mind that it was not difficult. I would look at the particular year or the month or whatever, or the thing that brought me to a certain place, and I recalled everything that happened. And as it indicates in the book, I was on 14 stations in 14 states and the District of Columbia over a long period of time. Yeah, and the same for pre-broadcast days when I was acting in New York. And so it just, it wasn't difficult to do. The only difficult part was the typing. I hated the typing part.
Well, and I'm sure with having all these photos already on file and in your house that, just looking at the files brought back the memories, or just looking at the photos brought back the memories.
You're exactly right.
What would you say to people when it comes to seizing the moment and striking up a conversation with maybe people you didn't think would want to talk to you?
Great question. Great question. I used to have that trepidation frequently, and I think not opening my mouth resulted in not getting farther ahead at an earlier time. I always wanted to be polite. My mother taught me politeness, perhaps too much. And if you're hesitant and you keep your light under a bushel, as they say sometimes, that's not going to work because people won't know. But of course, you don't want to be arrogant or belligerent or anything of that nature.
It's great to be humble, just don't be too humble.
That's exactly right. You just said it.
Well, so aside from Jerry Stiller, who is your favorite person you have met and wrote about in your book?
Well, not only met, but had a fabulous relationship. Robert Goulet, the singer. And Bobby was wonderful. He took me under his wing. He actually suggested coming on my weather show to have some fun with me in Las Vegas. And Carol Lawrence, his wife at the time, urged him to do that. She said, "We love you," and so forth. Well, it started this parade of all these people on the Strip coming on my weather show. One day I had Red Fox and Juliet Prowse on the same show, and you can actually see that clip on the internet these days. And the Las Vegas Review-Journal said Barry had more stars on his weather show this week than Ed Sullivan.
Oh, yeah.
And it was true. I mean, I got to know Jack Benny, and I mean, the names are continuous.
For our viewers who want to pick up your book, where can they find them?
On Amazon.com.
That it?
That's it.
Wonderful. So, if you want to pick up Barry Zavan's book, My Life Among the Giants, a memoir, check it out on Amazon. That's it for us in the Literature Corner. Please tune in next week for more people, places, and issues facing our viewing area. I'm Pioneer's Laura K. Prosser, and may your compass always point you in the direction of a good book.
Major support for Compass is provided by the ongoing support of the Leo P. Flynn Estate of Millbank, South Dakota. Additional support is provided by the Southwest Minnesota Private Industry Council, promoting Southwest Minnesota as a place rich with opportunity. Come for the jobs, stay for the lifestyle. More information at swmnpic.org.